every healing journey, every honest book about being human. The thing that finally helps is not a system, is not a hack. It is a person who looked at you and did not flinch. We talk a lot about mental wellness as something we do for ourselves. But what if the deeper work has always been about something simpler? The thing that got lost long before the addiction or the anxiety showed up, heart to heart connection. Welcome back to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm Yusuf, and on this show, we keep mental wellness real, practical, and grounded in everyday life. My guest today is Dr. Larry Smith. Larry is a retired chiropractor from Vancouver Island who practiced for 36 years, a long-time recovery advocate who has been sober since September 1999, and the author of three books: Embracing the Journey of Recovery, his memoir, Johnny and Me, Facing the Voice of Alcohol Within, and the upcoming dystopian medical thriller 2084, The Neuroxone Conspiracy. We are going to talk today about something that runs through all of his work and all of his life: the quiet, daily, almost forgotten practice of heart to heart connection. With that, I welcome my guest, Dr. Larry Smith, to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Larry, before we go deeper, I love to start with a small question. When you look back across a long life of medicine, recovery, writing, who was the first person who connected with your heart to heart in a way that actually changed something in you?
Um, there's a lot of people in my life, heart to heart. We're talking about family and friends, but I don't think it really became meaningful until a young man named Jonathan in the treatment center talked to me. And really, it wasn't what he said. I just knew that there was a connection that I had never felt before because I really wanted to die. So it would have been Jonathan in the treatment center, but not to dismiss that I had connections before, but that really brought me back to my life.
Mm, mhm. Okay. And so there's a really common idea that connection is a soft thing, like a nice extra, something we get to once we have handled the problems from everything you have lived, both in your own recovery and the lives of people you have sat beside. Where does the idea fall apart? Like, what does heart to heart connection actually do that we underestimate?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that this is life itself. That is the whole meaning of life is when I'm connecting one human being to another and we're being real with each other. And in my personal life, I can't get by my partner Lori and I. If I walk by her, sometimes she go, I have to have a hug before we start anything. That is the real connection there. And even little things like at the swimming pool, I see a lot of people there, and I really wanna know how they're doing, not just how their races are and how their times were, but how are you feeling? How did that make you feel? So I think it's something that you practice every day if you're conscious of it. Otherwise, it's just a life full of doing things and doing stuff with no real connection, so I can see how people would not want or would fall, prey to just going through the motions, and I was doing that for a number of years thinking I was being successful where I wasn't because I really craved, being with another person, being around people, and the only way is by bearing my soul. I mean, you can't do it every day necessarily, but just, um, you have to connect and you have to work at it. I'm not an outgoing person. That's why I love doing these podcasts. I've never met you before, and, I like making new connections, so it's just something that you have to do basically every day, and you can't just slide by it.
Mm. And that is such an important discussion because most of us are more connected than we have ever been digitally and lonelier than we ever been actually.
Oh, that's you've hit the nail on the head. If you're looking in the shopping malls, the faces are in the phones, and even before that, I'd be as a chiropractor, I was looking at people's postures and how they were moving. And I'll tell you right now, you said they're digitally connected, but heart to heart, not connected. There's just so much information, and you can't get around it. That is why you have to make a conscious effort for, especially with loved ones, but even people you don't know or know, they can just use that little extra. How are you doing? How are you really feeling? I mean, there's a lot of ways of doing it, but you hit a really good point there, and I appreciate what you're saying because I get annoyed with it every day. Everybody on their phone, and it really has disconnected us. So thank you for bringing that up.
And Dr. Larry, underneath this addiction, underneath anxiety, underneath the long, quiet kinds of suffering, you've talked about a voice in your memoir. You personified it as Johnny. From your seat now, what is actually happening for someone when the when that voice gets loud, and what does the absence of real connection have to do with it?
Okay, so I think what you're talking about there, what we're looking at is, I'm talking from my point of view, and it's probably many other people's points of view, is the voice of whoever it is in your head. In my case, it was Johnny. Johnny basically controlled my life. I had to have Johnny, a connection with him every day, which was a drink or a pill. Well, and it wasn't singular. It was a lot of it. And when I started questioning whether I should be taking it, the voice kept on telling me, just have one, just have one. But of course, you just can't have one. And this went on for so many years until it became such a strong connection. I couldn't even talk to another human being without having something in my system because I was afraid. I was afraid they might see me for who I really am. I was portraying a person who was confident and strong and intelligent, but underneath, I was dying inside because the one relationship with Johnny had totally taken over. And this is how the book Johnny and Me got started. I really wanted to tell my support group what exactly was like. There were two voices. There was Johnny's voice and there was Larry's voice. And Johnny would do anything for me to keep together with him. Even though it had caused me great harm, he said, "Well, I've always brought you peace. I've always brought you this." It was the big lie. So I think with people out there struggling too, that voice is very strong and it takes help to overcome it. I don't think most people can do it on their own. Some can, and my hat's off to them. I realize that's possible. In my case, I needed to be taken away from my home situation and I needed to be around people in the same situation to help me to realize there was a person underneath there. And the first connection that I had was with that young man named Jonathan. And basically, there was a renewed heart to heart connection. I basically wanted to die. So that voice of Johnny or whoever it is in your head, and you're struggling with it, you really need to deal with it. But most people, you can't do it alone.
Hmm. Hmm. And that is the part that's hard to hear and important to hear at the same time. Because so many people listening are at war with a voice in their head, not realizing that voice has been speaking longer than they have had real, safe human connection in their life.
Oh, yeah. It's there, and there are other ways you can deal with it too, but you need to have healthy ways in combating it. It's just not something you can turn the switch and say it's off. That is why when you go through a recovery program, you need strategies to help you with it too. Mine, besides connecting with other people, was physical activity. I really needed to keep my body moving. That was why I did marathons and Ironman triathlons and that type of thing, and also eating properly. So then when the voice comes in your head, you're better able to deal with it. But if you're hungry, you're tired, you're not with other people, the voice, it's very easy to be manipulated. You see the bottle of Johnny there, or you see the pill, and it's way too easy to succumb to that. So, but it takes time to build up these systems to fight the voice within.
Mm. Larry, I want to ground this in real life. So, for someone listening right now who's not in addiction, but who knows they are disconnected from their family, from their partner, from themselves, what does the work of rebuilding heart to heart connection actually look like in a regular week?
Okay, that's a really good question, and I think the building of heart to heart connection, it just starts with something simple. So, say it's your loved one, your partner. Can I talk to you? And there's something that's been bothering me, and can we talk for a second? There, I think you'll get the attention. So I've been, for an example, I've been feeling anxious about something at work, and can I speak with you? And the other person, the partner, is going to totally listen to you then. And then as soon as you're able to share um, a vulnerability, a feeling, it doesn't have to be too deep, but just a concern. I think that is what starts it. You just can't automatically go there deep, but I think if you make a concerted effort to try to connect with that way, express something that you're vulnerable about, the other person, your partner or whoever it's going to be, will say, you know what, I know how you feel. I know exactly how you feel because that happened to me, and that must feel really tough for you. And I learned this at a treatment center, as I had to go over the basic feelings, go up to strangers and saying, um, I've been afraid in my life. Here's the example of me being afraid. And does that ever happen to you? And the person looks at me, what, are you kidding? And they would share a story with me. And it went, so I had to go up to all sorts of people doing that. So if I can be in a vulnerable position and do it with total strangers, I think it's, I wouldn't say easy, but it's definitely possible for you to go up to your loved ones, even if you have been disconnected, you're not getting along, show that little bit of vulnerability, show them your heart, show them you're hurting, and I am quite certain that they will share back with you. And it doesn't have to be in big, loud words. It's more of the feeling that goes with it. Does that make sense?
Yes. And what is a small, almost invisible practice that has made the biggest difference for you in staying connected to yourself and the people you love?
Um, the biggest, smallest difference is being real. So I had the big mask of how I wanted people to see Larry. And so now if I'm having a bad day, it says, you know what, this day sucks. I feel really bad. You know what? I just want to go to bed, and then tomorrow we're going to start again. But right now, I just feel so awful. And then that way, it's not, everything can't be wonderful every day. So if you're true and authentic with your emotions, every so often you can just tell people how you feel, and if you're happy, tell them that as well. Just be you, because everybody else is taken. And I was ashamed of me. I thought I wasn't good enough, but I had to show that I was. So I'd say, yeah, be real would be the one simple thing.
Mm. That is so honest. I think a lot of listeners just had a moment of recognition because connection is not built in big speeches. It is built in small, repeated acts of being actually present. That's the part nobody markets to us.
Yeah, there's no money to be made that way. You can't sign up for a seminar. It's a very easy thing. Be real. So I know what you mean. There's all sorts of ways of how to improve yourself. And in my disease, I read every self-improvement book and made it complex versus just start sharing. And I mean, and I still have to work at it every day. And actually, it's a good thing because it keeps one grounded and it keeps one connected.
Mm. And Larry, your new book, 2084, The Neuroxone Conspiracy, tell us about it. And what does the title mean?
Okay, so 2084, the Neuroxone Conspiracy. It started, I would have been about 10 years into my recovery, and one of my mentors, he was actually at the treatment center I was at, and we were at a meeting together. And he said, "Larry, I'm getting really fed up because the addiction recovery business is being taken over by the pharmaceutical companies." And I had no idea what he was talking about because I was working so hard in my program and connecting with people and doing what I had to. I had no idea there had something come in place in the medically assisted treatment where you're using drugs to reduce cravings. And okay, that kind of makes sense. And we're doing safe supply so people don't buy. Yeah, that makes sense. But I think what he was getting at is we were dealing with recovery had become chemical management versus heart to heart connection. And he was just so upset about it. And the more I looked into it, I found out, oh, this is really happening. And in
Mm.
reality, we need both. Yes, we need to keep people alive, but what are we keeping people alive for if they're just going to go out and recycle and overdose again? So that's where I started looking into it. And I said, gee, I says, you know what, I could write about this. And so I developed one of the characters, Dr. Berger. He's based on my friend who has passed on. And then I needed some other characters as well. One was from a pharmaceutical company president, and of course, the government as well was involved. So basically, what we're looking at here is the pharmaceutical industry combined with the government is basically they've found the cure, and the cure is a pill named Neuroxone. But the only thing is, it sounds good, but because people are dying at an ever increasing rate, they are not allowing any other forms of treatment. So your abstinence-based recovery, uh, they don't like, so they're slowly trying to erase it. So it's a struggle between abstinence-based recovery and the pill that is allegedly supposed to cure addiction. Uh, that is the conflict, and I ran into so many things in my personal life that I had to get off my chest, and I even used myself as one of the characters speaking to a health minister or a chief medical officer because I find our voices aren't being heard. We have people who know very little about addiction. They are the ones who are making all the decisions. So I explore all these concepts, and it's character driven. And I really I enjoyed developing the characters, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out. So I says, "Oh, here I have to have the ending here," which I won't tell you what it is. But I just found it was a fascinating concept. And I tried to have a balanced approach, but of course, as you know, I think the heart to heart connection is where it's at. And that
Mm.
can never be erased because what are we living for? And one of the sayings is recovery is not the absence of craving, it's the presence of purpose. And that's one of the lines that I like to promote because it's all about what are you waking up for in the morning to do. Here, I want to spread the word, and I see with the work you're doing too. You want people to be self-empowered to transform, and I congratulate you on that. You've had many podcasts with very interesting guests, and by the way, thank you for having me on so I can express my point of view.
Absolutely, sir. You're most welcome. And that is really a brave thing to put on the page because the easier story is to say technology will save us. But you are saying something harder that if we let human part disappear, the cure becomes its own kind of harm.
Yeah, uh, I know exactly what you mean there. I would agree.
So, Dr. Larry, for people who want to connect with you or want to read your works, where can they do that?
Best way is through drlarrysmithauthor.com and go right to the reader circle because I have all sorts of insightful allegory type stories that are immediately available when you sign up. And there's a blog there, and there's basically everything you need to know about me and connection, especially heart to heart connection. So, yeah, drlarrysmithauthor.com, um, recovery circle, or I should say, reading circle.
Perfect. Perfect, sir. And to everyone listening, all these links are shown notes, so just go and check those out. Dr. Larry, is there any last message that you want to leave us with?
No matter what, there is hope. There is hope. And if you are hurting, reach out and talk to somebody. That is the basic one. That's what's saved me, is by reaching out. And when that happens, the journey can start beginning.
Here is what I am taking from this conversation, that mental illness is not a solo project. It never was. It is built in the small, daily, often unspectacular acts of letting other human heart actually meet ours. So, if today's conversation reads somewhere quiet in you, do one thing tonight before you go sleep. Reach out to one person, a real person, heart to heart, no agenda, no fix, just contact. And that is the medicine. I thank Dr. Larry Smith for spending this time with us, and I thank you all for listening. I'll see you in the next one.